I'm an organizer with the Answer Coalition. We hoped that people would come from all over the country to begin building a real grassroots movement to say no to the Trump administration in its efforts to overthrow the sovereign government of Venezuela. I think we had a great success today. We had people from all over the country. This was a strong demonstration. It was purposeful. People were determined. And we agreed today that we're going to use this as a launching pad for the next set of activities. Those will be on April 19th and April 20th in scores of cities all over the country. Our message is pretty simple. No to sanctions, no to the coup, no to a US war in Venezuela. What we mean by that is that the people of Venezuela, and they alone, should be the masters of their own destiny. It's not acceptable that Donald Trump, Mike Pence, John Bolton, Mike Pompeo can say, oh, we've determined that Juan Guaido is the next president of Venezuela, someone who 86% of all Venezuelans had never heard of before the announcement that he was the interim president. This is the most brazen form of imperialist intervention in another country. Unlike the Obama administration or George W. Bush or Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, all the administrations before it, all of them have concealed the nature of their operations. What Donald Trump's administration has done that's different is the brazen character of the intervention. They announce from Washington, without an election, who the president of Venezuela will be, even though Venezuela had an election and Nicolas Maduro was the one who won that election. So we're confronting a real danger here. Trump, John Bolton, Pompeo, that gang or gangsters feel if they can overturn the government in Venezuela, they're going to go then to overturn the government in Nicaragua. They're going to try then to overturn the government in Cuba. All of this is a big land grab or an oil grab. It's the attempt by the powerful, by Yankee imperialism, to steal the land, labor, and resources, and in the case of Venezuela, especially its oil. And again, they're dressing this operation up as some kind of human rights or pro-democracy movement, when in fact it's nothing other than the effort by imperialist oil companies and banks to take over this very resource-rich country.
We have a lot of educating to do because mainstream media is very busy miseducating everyone, pushing hard 24/7 on their propaganda campaigns, just like in the run-up to Iraq.
We will not fall into violence with the opposition. We will not let the U.S. have an excuse. And so today when we march, let's march solidly together. Pay attention. Make sure that we're militant, that we march with the whole city of Washington and the world hears us.
Obviously, you can see there are some right-wing opposition demonstrators to our right. We're going to avoid them. We're going to go straight out here behind these banners out into Pennsylvania Avenue. So just follow that banner. Thank you. I'm looking forward to sitting with you in the street. Hands up! Venezuela! Hands up! Venezuela! Hands up! Venezuela! Hands up! Venezuela! Hands up! Venezuela!
So the next person we want to bring up is Max Blumethal. He's editor and journalist of Venezuela.com. So give it up for Max Blumethal.
Thank you. It feels so much different being with real people than being online and getting mobbed by trolls. This is just, it feels so good to be here. And I was really hoping Jill Stein could have been here in person because I wanted to swear her in as interim president of the United States. Can we do that? President Stein. Against the dictator Dictator Gloria La Riva is here. Can we put an American flag sash on you and have you come up like Juan Guaido? You are my opposition leader. And this is the real opposition. This is the real resistance. And what we tried to do when I went down to Venezuela with my team, with my squad, Anya Parampil, Ben Norton, and Aaron Mate, yes, is to break the media blockade. Brian, you might remember during the Iraq War, I mean, you would get called in for debates, right, on MSNBC, and Phil Donahue was on air, he was the top-rated host. It was still corporate media, but there was debates. There were debates. There are no debates anymore. It's just a monotonous narrative being rammed down your throat. We have to understand that we are in an information war. That our media is not the news anymore. It is an information war. It's the megaphone of Cold War, new Cold War soft power organizations. And so when we went down to Venezuela, we were combating that with the support of people like you. And I'm sure most of you heard about the burning aid buses. Well, it was kind of like watching that scene on the Santander Bridge when the US tried to ram the aid across. They brought in these basically street hooligans who MSNBC portrayed as protesters and activists. They threw Molotov cocktails on top of US aid trucks, which actually contained no medicine, nothing that could have actually helped anyone. And we saw it with our own eyes. It's like, don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. They just burned the aid trucks. So I'm gonna take to the Gray Zone Project and report what I saw. Then 2 weeks later, I wake up and I get this flood of emails and direct messages and everyone's saying, great job, it was true, you're not a conspiracist, you're not crazy, the New York Times said it was true. And they said it was an accident though. Yeah, it's just an accident. No, they were trying to create a provocation to escalate the conflict, to justify an intervention. And we called it out, and with the support of people like you, and many of you were calling it out too, we basically scooped this phony fake news media, and that's really what it is.
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now! U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
What do we want?
U.S. out!
What do we want?
Now!
There was a disgusting memo that appeared on the Stratfor leaks on WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks being hosted by one of the most heroic journalists who's in de facto solitary confinement right now, Julian Assange. We need to see Julian Assange free. And this memo was written in 2010 by a group called Canvas in Belgrade, Serbia. It was a group funded by the United States government, which has trained thousands of activists around the world to do color revolutions, to basically get out in the street and do AstroTurf protests. And this memo called for the activists they had trained in Venezuela to exploit a looming electricity crisis and nationwide blackouts. They called the blackouts a watershed event. And that foreshadowed what we just saw in Venezuela, and it also foreshadowed the rise of Juan Guaido, who was one of these activists trained by Canvas, along with his mentor, Leopoldo Lopez. And they were not nonviolent activists. They led some extremely violent protests, which all of us would have been jailed for and painted as traitors if we had done in the United States. They were called marimbas, and they held Caracas under siege. It led to the killings of hundreds. They used a tactic called the waya, where they wrapped barbed wire across roads to seal off the roads, and many Venezuelans, common people, were beheaded. Juan Guaido denied this tactic and called it a myth. And he had good reason to deny it, because Juan Guaido participated in these protests, in these violent riots.
Venezuela sí, imperialismo no. Venezuela sí, imperialismo no. Venezuela sí, imperialismo no. Venezuela sí, imperialismo no.
As previous speaker said, we need to look at sanctions as an act of war, because that's exactly what they are. Alfred de Zayas was the UN Special Raconteur in Venezuela, and he was the first in 21 years to go to Venezuela and to actually investigate the economic situation, and he found that the sanctions were not only an act of war, he compared them to a medieval siege. And he called on the UN to invoke Article 96 of its charter to refer to the International Court of Justice. Sanctions, investigation of sanctions as an act of war and as a war crime by this administration, not just against Venezuela, but against Nicaragua through the NICA Act, against Cuba, against Syria, which is now facing a heating crisis because of sanctions, and against Iran and so many other countries. We need to amplify that message of Alfred de Zayas. And what we need to have is something like a Russell Tribunal. We need to have a People's Tribunal, because the ICJ isn't going to do it. We need to bring experts here and put the Trump administration and the US government on trial for sanctions, and then send our findings to the International Court of Justice. Thank you.
Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!
We don't got it!
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 Shut it down!
What do we want?
US out!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
US out!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
US out!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
US out!
When do we want it?
Now!
My name is Kei Prit. I'm an organizer with the Answer Coalition, that's Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. We're a group that organizes against war and racism because those two issues are interconnected. Racism is used to justify wars abroad, and the wars abroad are racist attacks on the domestic population here because it's often oppressed communities, minorities, people of color that are deprived of public funds and social services because of the massive war industry in the United States.
This brother I'm about to bring up, Sharod Zulu of the New African Black Panther Party and the United Panther Movement, is a former political prisoner, a very bad and bold brother who I've seen him speak, and it's inspirational. Fred Hampton Jr.'s son told me people get involved in movements like this because of either inspiration, aspiration, or desperation, and this is a very inspiring brother. So give it up for Sharod Zulu.
So we want to be clear, the New African Black Panther Party and the United Panther Movement stand unequivocally on the side of the socialist revolution that is taking place in Venezuela, that is taking place around the world. Not only that, we stand in solidarity with the socialist revolution taking place in the Philippines. With the socialist revolution taking place in India. We stand in solidarity with the nascent socialist revolution
Awesome, awesome. So, moving on, we want to bring up near to the teacher, Representative D9 of the FNRP of Libre Honduras, Lucy Pagoada-Quesada. Give it up for Lucy.
Thank you very much. It's a true honor to be here today. Thank you for the Answer Coalition for this amazing program that was put today. The rally was amazing. I am a teacher in the New York City Department of Education for 22 years now. I went from New York to Washington with two amazing teachers too. So teachers were on the front line of the fight. But today I'm here because I am from Honduras and I am the official representative of the Honduran resistance of the diaspora. The 19th Department, the Honduran resistance, and the Libre Party. And I am here because I am witness. And I am a victim, just like my people of Honduras. The people of Honduras, victims of what the U.S. imperialism can do in our countries. And why am I saying that? Because my country, Honduras, in 2009 was the victim of a brutal U.S.-backed coup. Under the administration of President Barack Obama and the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. A lot of Honduran blood on her hands. Because the coup that she supported along with the Barack Obama administration murdered thousands of our brothers and sisters. Among them, leaders like our environmentalist leader, Lenka Berta Cáceres, who just recently, this month on the 3rd, it was the 3rd anniversary of a brutal murder. Brutal murder. A shame, that's right. But, power to the people of Honduran resistance. And we want to say from here, from Washington, we applaud you for being in resistance in Honduras and throughout Latin America. The military coup of 2009, the U.S.-backed military coup, created the conditions in Honduras of violence, extreme poverty, and exodus. 80% of the people who today are fleeing Honduras in the caravans, on those caravans are people from Honduras. This is what the United States wants to do in all of Latin America. And this is what we are here to denounce. These are the conditions that they want to create. And this is why the people are leaving, because they cannot stand the violence anymore. They are willing to walk thousands of miles, families, entire families with their children, to try to come here to rescue, to asylum, to protect their lives.
Today we were mobilizing against Trump's coup in Venezuela. Trump declared this unknown figure, Juan Guaido, a right-winger, to be the president of Venezuela, which is obviously a problem because Venezuela already has a president. They've got Nicolas Maduro, and a lot of Venezuela. This is an affront to the Venezuelan democracy. It's an affront to international law. So what we were doing is we organized this march against the coup. Today was the national or the international marches against the coup in Venezuela, and this has been in the works for months ever since Trump declared this coup in January. The Answer Coalition has been mobilizing in cities nationwide to inform people about what's happening in Venezuela and to encourage them to come out to this protest. And yeah, this protest was overwhelmingly successful. We had hundreds, if not thousands, of people marching, demanding no coup, no sanctions in Venezuela. We sent a strong message that the war industry, the military-industrial complex are depriving the country of basic resources. We're reaching this point in society where we're seeing this basic contradiction, where we're spending trillions of dollars to kill people in other countries, to ruin people's lives, and at the same time, people back here in the States are suffering. There are 40 million people in the United States that are experiencing poverty, and we think at the Answer Coalition that money spent on these coups in Venezuela, in Libya, in Iraq, in Syria, all these wars for oil could be better, that money could be better served, that money could be better spent paying for public housing, paying for universal health care, paying for free education, anything that would better the people of the United States and not contribute to this industry of death.
So when they say they care about humanitarian aid, where's the humanitarian aid for the thousands of homeless people in the D.C. region? Humanitarian aid for the 41 million people in this country who are living in poverty. Humanitarian aid for the 47 million people who face hunger on any given day. And don't forget the fact that there's enough to feed and to house everyone. At any given time, there's maybe 600,000 odd homeless people. There's millions of empty homes. We can't fill them because people own them. So they say money is more important than people, and they want you to think that they're in Venezuela for some sort of humanitarian reason. It's a complete and total lie. But before we move on, I also just want to say this. We know the greatest humanitarian crisis in the world right now is happening in the country of Yemen. Which in a Saudi-led, U.S.-backed war has sent millions and millions of people into abject hunger. It's released a massive, massive cholera epidemic. But those who say, well, we want humanitarian aid in Venezuela, voted against ending the U.S. war in Yemen last week. Marco Rubio voted no. The Trump administration said they will veto it. They're not doing anything to force humanitarian aid into the port of Hodeida. In fact, they're giving bombs to Saudi Arabia to bomb the port, the last humanitarian aid port in Yemen. So when you look at the destruction and the death that is caused by them, you know that what this is about in Venezuela isn't human rights. It's about the gold, the oil, the diamonds, the wealth, and they are so happy to steal from that country and give a little bit to a tiny elite so they can build condos in Miami. We understand what's happening, and that's why we have gathered here in Washington, D.C. to say hands off
Venezuela!
Hands off
Venezuela!
Hands off
Venezuela!
Hands off
Venezuela!
Peace, how y'all doing? My name is Nino Brown. I'm an organizer with the Party for Social. I'm a teacher. I teach 5th grade. So I want to introduce some students from the Bronx. When I did City Year, I did City Year in the Bronx. And if you know anything about the Bronx and this connection to Venezuela, Venezuela has historically supported the Bronx with free oil and free services to keep people warm in the wintertime, right? That's the legacy of the Bolivarian Revolution. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring up Britney Morales, who's a Bronx student activist. So give her a round of applause.
Normally, but I just want to say that we came out here to show that we are supporting them. We came all the way from the Bronx. We came from the South Bronx to represent ourselves. Not only are we a student activist for what's going on in the community, we're going to speak against the government. We're not going to stay quiet because we're young. We're not going to stay quiet because we rather hang out after school. We're staying after school to do work. We're staying after school to prepare for days like this. We're staying after school to make sure that everybody wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning so that we're able to come down to Washington, D.C. and let us be heard. I won't stop. We won't stop until we're heard. We won't stop until this against Venezuela and everybody else stops. We need to take control of our government. Just because he's our president doesn't mean he's going to decide when we do things and how we do things. If we're going to die, if we're going to have a war, we're not going to wait for him to tell us, oh guys, come on, it's a war. We're not going to be there. Every time he needs us, he's going to send the army and let them die, and we have to deal with the grieving. We're not going to allow that. So I just want to say we came out here to let Venezuela know that they're not alone, and no matter what, we're still going to be here fighting until Trump stops what he's doing. It's not okay and it's not right.
If I could just speak to whoever's watching, the American people, I just want to say that we have more in common as working class people, as poor people. We have more in common with the people in Venezuela who are also poor and working class that are supporting their government, which is supporting poor and working class. We have more in common with them than we have with our own government, which answers only to the rich. We don't have we're talking about democracy in Venezuela, how they don't have democracy in Venezuela, but we don't have democracy here. We have a dictatorship. Not a dictatorship of a single person, but we have a dictatorship of a few thousand rich people that were never voted on, but they control everything in this society. They control all the valuable land, they control the food, they control the internet, they control the media. So our message is we need to take that back. We need to show the people of the United States that we have the power, we create all the value in society, and we deserve to enjoy the we deserve to share what we create. We deserve to actually inherit what we create.
I'm excited to introduce Lucia Solano from Petro Bronx.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lucia. I represent to the Solidarity people to the South Bronx, and the Solidarity people to the Dominican Republic too. I need to talk about that Venezuela no está sola. Venezuela no está sola. Venezuela no need war. Venezuela need peace. This is my first time to see to the one president say I am president. That's a say Guaido. I am president. Then go to the election. Then is president. This is Nicolás Maduro.
I'm Fidel Sankara. I'm branch organizer for the Fayetteville, Arkansas branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
I'm Maraak Andrezj. I'm a member of the Fayetteville branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Yesterday, in Washington, D.C., there was a solidarity march for the Bolivarian government and essentially a protest against the U.S. intervention, the impending U.S. intervention that's going to happen in Venezuela. And we just wanted to show Washington, D.C. and Caracas even, that there are people in the United States that don't want U.S. intervention in Venezuela.
And so we had a rally at Lafayette Park, right in front of the White House. We had several good speakers there, including some members from Code Pink, who, if you remember, interrupted the OAS meeting where Pompeo was trying to gather support for the intervention in Caracas. And then from Lafayette Park, we marched all the way across D.C. to the New York Presbyterian Church and held a teach-in there.
She is an organizer with the Answer Coalition at Suncoast, and her name is Ruth Beltran. Please give Ruth a very warm welcome.
How's everybody feeling today? Who's on fire? Who's ready to go home and continue this work? Your actions coming here today is priceless to this movement. I love that America, remember that when America, they used to say, oh, America the Great, right? And everybody used to look up to America. And I remember that growing up in the Dominican Republic. But that's no longer the case, right? Because today we can see America exactly for what it is. We can see the killings. We can see the caging of people. We can see the bombing of people. We can see the lying in social media, right? In the regular media. We can see it for exactly what it is. An imperialist monster that is out looking for resources. Regardless of how many lives they have to kill. They will kill their own if they have to for resources. So I want all of you today to go home and continue this work. We have to educate, we have to organize, and we have to agitate. Let me say that again. We have to organize, we have to educate, and we have to agitate. And that's our homework for today. We need to go home
And we need to educate all the people that do not know, those that are still blinded or they just haven't taken the time to see and to read. We need to go home and educate those people. We need to make sure that anytime we speak about another country, Latin America, helping out, as we know, that we who are conscious are able to communicate to our other brothers and sisters about the reality of U.S. imperialism.
The statement from President Maduro thanking us for the solidarity it gave us an overwhelming sense of joy, because it shows that like our actions aren't unknown to the government, the Bolivarian government, and the people of Venezuela, and it shows that Venezuela actually cares that there are people in the United States who are opposed to the machinations of the U.S. government.
Yeah, it was a great honor for President Maduro to shout us out and to recognize the effort that went into this, and it kind of brought a sense of vindication to the whole thing, the sense that, we actually accomplished our primary goal, which is to show Caracas that it was not alone in standing up against Washington's plans.
Let's be clear when we're talking about this, that it's not just the Trump administration, it's not just the Republicans, it's the Democrats, it's every part of the war machine that makes it run. And let's also be clear that right now the U.S. government is already at war against Venezuela. Sanctions are an act of war, and this is an illegal war. These are war crimes, crimes against humanity, violations of the UN Charter, violations of the Geneva Convention, violations of Nuremberg. And don't think Mike Pompeo doesn't know it. Just yesterday he announced that he will not allow anyone from the ICC, the International Criminal Court, he won't allow them into the United States. Because war criminals know, they know that they're war criminals. I mean, this is an administration that, while generally not environmentally friendly, believes in a form of recycling Elliot Abrams, recycling John Bolton. Sometimes it's not recycling, it's just garbage. But right now, for everyone that's here and for everyone that's standing up, let's remember, in the 6 months before the invasion of Iraq, the Washington Post ran 140 front-page articles advocating in favor of attacking Iraq. Let's not pretend that the media is the free media that they say that they are, when they act simply as the drumbeat propaganda arm. When you have the Washington Post with regard to Venezuela, when there was a terrorist attack and they were dropping bombs on the Supreme Court, the headline of the Washington Post, and you can look at it, called it a protest. Dropping bombs on the Supreme Court, a protest. Now, Standing Rock, indigenous people and others standing up, that's a riot. People in Washington, D.C. marching against the Trump administration, that's a riot. People in Ferguson, that's a riot. But when it comes to people in Venezuela dropping bombs on the Supreme Court, slaughtering Chavistas in the street, it's just protest. It's just creative protest. So everyone today, for everything that you're fighting for, and for everyone that you're going to talk to as you leave here and organize in opposition to the war that we're in now, and that we have to stop, let's all